work. We all have to do it, but why do we sometimes resist it so much? What if I told you that work is actually a natural thing for every living species that has ever existed? Animals in the wild work every day to ensure their survival. Lions hunt for food, ants build and maintain their colony, birds build their nest for their offspring, and bees tirelessly collect pollen to make honey. Humans have also been working since the dawn of civilization. From farming and hunting to creating complex machines and conducting scientific research, work has always been part of our daily lives. But why do we sometimes find it so hard to embrace work? Maybe it's because we see it as a burden or a chore that we have to endure in order to earn a living. But what if we could shift our mindset and see work as something natural and fulfilling? If you had the option to choose between living a life of a pig filled with all the physical pleasures that you could wish for, or you could just live a regular human life, which one would you choose? The point of this mind game is to make you realize that there are certain things that we as humans are capable of, like enjoying aesthetics, like beauty, enjoying the creation of art, feeling morally right about things, and also transcending ourselves, like giving ourselves up for a group. Although that's something that a lot of animals might also do, but there are things we are not immediately associating with happiness or pleasure, but that do bring a certain joy to our lives. It's almost as if there's a certain type of pleasure that we can derive just from knowing that something has happened, like knowing that your job is contributing to a better world, or knowing that you gave to a charity. It isn't a physical sensation, it's not a physical pleasure you're receiving, but it's still bringing you joy. And that is an essential part of getting a different mindset about work. If you look at any animal in the world, or all of your ancestors, pretty much the reason you're being able to watch this video is that there has been an uninterrupted line of ancestors, not ancestors, although I did talk about animals, ancestors that have worked in order for you to get to this point, to be able to sit here, watch that video. And something strange has happened to some of us in our generation. We call it curling parents, where the parent brushes smoothly the way for their children so they can glide easily towards their goal. But this creates people who are very fragile, and as Nassim Taleb would call it, these children are not very anti-fragile. And I'm not the only one who thinks that we should change our mindset about work, because Mihai Csikszentmihalyi in his book Flow already talked about this, where there's this strange thing happening that people prefer to be in the flow state, but they also prefer not to be working. Which actually relates to the story of the pig that I started this video with, because there are a few things that basically every organism needs to survive, which is safety, food, and reproduction. And there's actually a fourth thing that shows up when the organism becomes a little bit more intelligent. So if you recognize this in yourself, you could say that you're more than an algae or a tree, which is freedom. And I think this is where the key point lies, that as Mihai Csikszentmihalyi also discussed, that we are in a culture where work is having very negative connotations. We know that we want more than only safety and food and reproduction, although those are of course important, but people are also longing for freedom. But the other funny, interesting paradox is that limitations create freedom. If you actually think about what it means to have no boundaries, you will realize that you won't be getting anywhere. Like, if you have ultimate boundlessness, you would just vaporize. So thank God for any kind of limitation that's put upon you, which also brings me to the next topic, which is the green grass syndrome, which means that whenever we are working or we are buying clothing or we are with our friends or maybe with your girlfriend or boyfriend, you are looking at the other side and there's greener grass over there. But this also has to do with your limited first perception of how you think that the other side actually is. And I've talked about this before. It's like the peak of inflated expectations. It's the peak of Mount Stupid, where you haven't yet explored any of the possibilities. And that's the reason why it all looks so beautiful. Like, very simple example is that today I was driving and I saw a farmer in a tractor, and I imagined how nice it would be to just work in the field for a day. But that's just the very short-sighted first perception that I have of him, because he probably also has the same type of struggles that everyone else has when you dive deeper into any kind of situation. And especially here in the Netherlands, farmers are in a pretty bad position. And that's also another example of vocalism that I talked about in a previous video, where we always expect something in the future to feel way better than it will actually feel. So once you arrive at that certain point in the future, you're going to realize that it will have the good and the bad sides. And this relates to Stutz, a documentary I saw on Netflix about a psychologist. He says that we often tend to make a snapshot moment in our imagination about how the future will be, and that once we arrive at that place, we will be content, we will be happy because we are in the snapshot picture. And there's plenty of these snapshot pictures. You only have to open Instagram and you will see an endless reel of snapshot pictures that you can live towards. And once you get there, you think you will be happy, but probably you won't. And Stutz also says that there are 3 things in life that are constant, which are pain. There will always be pain in your life, which also sounds very similar to what the Buddha said. And there will always be uncertainty, because you might think you have any control over the future, but really you don't. Anything can happen. And the third and last thing is that there will be constant work. There will always be work. And I think this also aligns perfectly with my second last video about Wu Wei. Once you really accept the fact that there will always be work, it starts to become way easier, because you realize that this is just how life works. And when you stop resisting and when you stop fighting, it actually saves you so much energy. It's amazing. So you really go with the energy of the moment, which is what they talk a lot about in Wu Wei. And in that way, once you stop resisting, everything starts to go a lot easier. This video was a little bit on the fly, and I would like to leave you with the following text that I wrote about a businessman and a monk, about how they approach work. Turns out that the hard-working entrepreneur and the wise monk were right. The entrepreneur and the monk both lived the ultimate goal in their minds already. They experienced it mentally. Beautiful women, sandy beaches, all the food and fun in the world. Some say we have to get to that life before we realize it's not what we seek. The entrepreneur and the monk both found that freedom isn't the ultimate goal. The entrepreneur focuses on solving real-world issues and shows up every day. The monk focuses on accepting real-world issues and shows up every day. Showing up every day is the real freedom. Having constraints and finding ways to overcome them, that is the real freedom. Life takes effort and time. Don't take the effort and time out of life. There won't be anything left to live.